name's Flash Gordon, and this is Rebel Radio Podcast.
It is I've had a long day, but I'm ready to record. I'm ready to do this. Let's go. Let's roll.
There we go.
Welcome. Matt, how are you, man?
I'm good, man. Just a little under the weather. It's that time of year.
You sound like you've been sucking on some testicles there in your mouth, man.
Oh man, this guy. Yesterday I sounded like TJ Miller. And then 2 days before that, I had people at work asking me to say, "I am vengeance."
I don't know if it
sounded like Bale's Batman, man.
Well, it happens, when
it happens, dude.
Get down on your knees at work and do things to earn,
No, man. It's the seasons. There's the seasons changing.
Sure.
Oh, man.
If I'm not going to bust you, man, who is? We don't have Frank on the show anymore to bust you down, and
that's
Long,
true.
And Long, he's too much of a straight man to make a joke like that. He just, he would
that's
tell
true.
something like, "Why do you guys always have to make the gay jokes or whatever?" We're like, because it's funny.
Really, guys? Really? Yeah. A penis joke. Yeah, the best kind.
That's right. We saw the Longmeister, the Zen Master, last Saturday as we got together.
We sure did.
Celebrated his birthday, and that was cool.
That's right. The great Long, baby.
The great Long. He turned 21 and got his first set of pubes. So
that's right.
Happy birthday, Long.
Happy birthday, Long.
Well,
welcome to manhood.
Enjoy your new pubes.
Yes.
And speaking of the Frank Meister, he was there too, and
he was
the Frank.
He was very frank.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it was a good day. It's been a good week, man. It was, this week felt a little slow at times. It's like the day would be going by, then you look up and you're like, God dang, it's only noon. And like the day would just hit a wall. It felt like that every day this week for some reason.
Just went by slow.
Yeah. But it's that time of the year, man. Fucking January. It's like, it's rainy and dreary and overcast and cool one day and then hot the next day. And it's just like, it's kind of January. No offense to anyone like Long or your wife that have birthdays in January. That I'm glad that they exist on this planet because they're friends of mine. But January it's a shitty month, man. It really is just kind of, at least in Texas it is.
Yeah.
It's just terrible weather. There's nothing fucking going on. It's just like, it's a bummer of a month,
It's raining in the morning. It's hot in the afternoon, and then it gets freezing cold, and it's like it just can't make up its mind. Are you gonna rain all day? Is it gonna be hot today? Is it gonna be cold? And
that's it.
It's like you got this buffet of a forecast basically.
And then February will roll around here next week, and it gives you some hope. You have the Super Bowl, and then you have a shitty fucking holiday that's made to sell a bunch of expensive roses for people who are suckers to buy all that crap. And yes, I hate Valentine's, and I will continue to hate Valentine's for the rest of my fucking life. But at least February, the weather starts changing. You're getting to March where it's really good weather. So February at least brings some hope to that. But we've got a few days left here in January. Our last episode of the month for January today, and But there is also hope in fantastic television shows that are hitting the airwaves, and we're a couple episodes in The Last of Us, and I know you got caught up on it this week and watched the first two episodes, and man, what a great freaking show so far. I mean,
it is awesome, man. I have to admit,
it's well awesome. Acted. The set design is incredible. It blows my mind how it looks like the game, and it took shots from the game, shot by shot, but yet it's expanding on the story too from the game. It's well acted. It's turning the tide on what have been miserable video game adaptations for many years. For real. From whether they're movies or television shows, or there's been some okay ones. I mean, the animated Castlevania series on Netflix was pretty good. The Sonic movies have been enjoyable. The first Mortal Kombat film
That's
back
true.
in the day was okay.
Mm-hmm.
So there's been some okay ones, but nothing has been able to completely capture the essence of the game itself or the storyline like The Last of Us already has in 2 episodes. And the third episode comes out tomorrow night, and so far it's the best reviewed episode of the show. People are saying it's a masterpiece of television because I guess they let the critics review the first 3 episodes, and it's awesome. And now all of a sudden, and we'll talk about the news a little bit. All these companies are like, "Oh, what game can we make into a TV show?" And the games are designed. They're 8 to 12 hours of gameplay, sometimes longer. They're really difficult to adapt into a 2-hour film. And Neil Druckmann, who created The Last of Us, said that they struggle with that. While it was in development since 2011 when the first game hit, studios wanted to make a movie, and he couldn't fit the story into 2 hours. Sam Raimi was attached at one point to make the Last of Us film, and even Raimi struggled with it. How do you tell the story in 2 hours? And the reverted.
Man, I
back.
would have loved to see that.
And
Well,
I don't think his design, his style wouldn't have worked for it. I don't think. I mean,
Evil Dead meets The Last of Us. You got the camera panning through the grass.
HBO came along and said, we believe in this, and let's do this project, and it looks like they're doing it the right way. And I played the game, so I'm a huge fan of the show. I know you've never played the games, but what do you think about it after 2 episodes?
Dude, I think that it's got a great story. I like Pedro Pascal's character. Is it Job or
Joel?
Joel, sorry. And I saw something today. I saw that Jensen Ackles auditioned for it and didn't get it.
Right.
And I was like, man, he would have been good, but Pedro he's knocking it out of the park.
Yeah.
He's very, very good. And then his daughter dying, it's like, man, if you haven't seen the first episode yet, you got to. Yeah, I'm we're
a couple weeks
spoiler territory. But it's like, man, just, that's having that happen. And I was just like, there's no way she dies, and she fucking dies.
It's the whole driving force for Joel's character throughout the game and probably throughout the show.
Yeah.
Well, and I read that too about Jensen Ackles was the runner-up, and no disrespect to Jensen, but I think you have to have what Pedro's already brought to this in 2 episodes. And the way Joel is presented in the game is he's this tough guy who's been through a lot, and survived all this time for 20 years. But he also has this just very soft, fatherly manner to him. And I don't know if I could see Jensen bringing that to the role. But yet Pedro can bring that to the role immediately. He's already done it in 2 episodes. And as the show goes on, his relationship with Ellie becomes so important to the story and to what happens. And I can see Pedro doing that perfectly. And I wasn't a huge fan when Pedro was cast. I didn't see him as Joel, but man, 2 episodes in, I bought into it, hook, line, and sinker. He's so good, so far. I love it. And the girl who plays Ellie. She's fantastic too. She's just like Ellie is in the game. Feisty, tough, no holds barred. She's got a set of balls.
Cursing. Yeah. Because I have seen some gameplay, and I know she does curse in the video game, and she has a little bit of a smart mouth.
Uh-huh.
So that's what I've picked up. Honestly, it makes me want to get a PlayStation. It makes me want to get a PlayStation so I can play the damn thing.
Yeah.
So maybe that'll happen. We'll see. But I saw that sales for The Last of Us, people who haven't played it are
increased
up.
like 27%, which is huge.
Yeah, man. So you didn't see that happen with Resident Evil.
No, I mean it's one of the best games I've ever played. Probably is my favorite game of all time, the first one. And I'm so happy they are adapting it to this series, and HBO is doing it right. And it's a different take on the whole idea of zombies or fungal infection than a lot of games and ways have been presented before. And and it's more of a human story than it is necessarily a story about the infection. And I think that's what's great about The Last of Us. It's this human story told in a horrible world, and I won't go into spoilers for things that happen, but I think people that have never played the games continue to follow along with this are going to be in for for a treat and be amazed that there's a game out there like this that had such an immersive story that was very cinematic when you were playing it. So.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I saw that. Shit. I lost it. I lost it.
You lost your brain.
I did. I
this
had a
is
thought
your brain on podcasting, people.
on podcasting. Yep. I just farted out there. I had it. And I was holding it, and it got released somewhere.
Yeah, but man, I'm just thrilled about this show, and so I watched that this week, and I didn't finish this other thing. I started watching just because I was bored. I started watching Moonfall on HBO Max.
How was it?
It's horrible.
It's horrible.
It's from Roland Emmerich, who's known for his two best movies are arguably Stargate and Independence Day. But Roland has become known as the disaster movie guy over the years, of course, with The Day After Tomorrow in 2012. And most of the time his movies are at least some spectacle in them, something to like eye candy, eye porn, whatever you want to call it. But Moonfall is it's bad. They make irrational decision after irrational decision in this movie. Things just sort of happen with no reasoning or any kind of science or theories behind anything that's occurring in this film. It's almost like they're just going from scene to scene and putting it together like, oh, this is going to, and it's just like, so I cut it off after about halfway through. I'm like, okay, this is just, it's just too stupid. So I didn't even finish it. I would not recommend it. It's not good. And Roland is a guy who I think is, a very capable director. He's made Independence Day and Stargate. He's made some good films. But I guess he's at that point in his career that he's just not even trying anymore. He's like, they're just going to call me when they want to make disaster movies, and I'm going to go throw it together and whatever. If it doesn't, they don't like it, they don't like it. It just feels like he's not even trying. So I do not recommend watching that.
Noted.
And then the only other thing I watched this week is not really a movie that we would necessarily talk about on the genres we cover on the show, but I guess I'll mention it because I'm a huge fan of music songwriter Glenn Hansard. I discovered him when he opened up for Eddie Vedder back in 2011 or 12 when I was at the show, and ever since then I've always listened to Glenn's music. He's an Irish folklore singer or folk music, and he also had a band called The Frames in the 2000s that had some success. And he made a movie in 2007 called Once. And I had bought the Blu-ray a couple years back, and I never watched it because it's a romantic film, and it's just something that I had to be in the right mindset to watch, and just due to my own personal relationships in the past. And so I finally sat down and watched Once, and it won the Academy Award in 2007 for Best Song. For Falling Slowly. It's a song you've probably heard and even realized it was Glenn Hansard. And man, this is a really good little film, like really good. It was shot for $150,000. It made $27 million worldwide, so more than made 20 back. It was shot by his bandmate from The Frames. He wrote the story and directed it. And at first they were going to cast Cillian Murphy in the role, and Cillian Murphy backed out. So they lost a lot of money on the budget once Cillian Murphy backed out. So he was like, you know what? We're going to make this film with our friends. And he asked Glenn to do it. And at first Glenn was like, I'm not an actor. I don't want to do this. And but he ended up shooting it with Glenn and another singer named Marquetta. I can't remember her last name. She plays the love interest in the film. And it's basically a modern musical where they tell they meet and they decide to record music together. She has a husband who's going away, but yet she still loves him, and he just lost his girlfriend the year before she left him. So basically they come together through their friendship and tell their story through the music they write of how their relationships have been. And it's a remarkably well shot little independent film, and just tells a really good story about meeting someone that in your life that is basically your other half, but yet it's not really meant to be because she's already married, and Glenn's character has to move on without her at the end. But he leaves a remarkable gesture for her at the end. So as an audience member, you walk away from the film very happy because, he didn't get the girl, but he was able to walk away and do something remarkable for her. and I'm glad I finally sat down and watched it because the music in it's great, the movie's really great, and just a really good little film that a lot of people may have not heard of, and it's not overly sappy romantic. It's just it tells a really good story about these two people that meet and want to write music together. And if you're a music fan or just a good movie, it's worth the watch. It's only like an hour and a half long, so it rolls really well. And but I was like I said, I bought the Blu-ray as a fan of Glenn's music and wanted to see the movie, and I just had to be in the right mindset. So I'm like, damn it, I spent money on this Blu-ray. I need to finally watch it, and I'm glad I did. It's a really, really good little film because I don't think it's streaming anywhere. So it's like, you just have to catch it if it's on somewhere, or watch it. But a good movie with good music. And that's really
awesome, man.
That's the only things I really checked out this week.
I had missed one from last week, so I'm going to talk about it briefly. And I told you about it the other, what ex post facto is Requiem for a Dream. I remembered you talking about it one day. Jennifer mentioned Jennifer Connelly in it, and I was like, oh, maybe one day I'll watch it. And it came up as a possible rental one day, and I just never did it because I watched the trailer and I was like, this is a weird looking film. So I just never did it. And then I saw someone post in my movie group about it. And I was like, you know what? It's on sale. Let me just buy it. It's like, $4 to buy. So I got it. And I think you're right, Mark. It's a one and done kind of thing, Yeah. It's a rough film to watch. Jared Leto being a junkie, shooting up, Marlon Wayans not being his normal Marlon Wayans self.
I do think it's a film that should be shown to kids that are in rehab. Think twice about doing it.
Yeah. Oh, dude. Yeah. Losing his arm at the end of the film, and then Jennifer Connelly. Oh,
it was either an Oscar-winning film or Oscar nominated for the old lady in the movie. I can't remember if she won or was nominated for it.
Oh yeah,
yeah, for best supporting actress.
Yeah, that I've seen a lot of people comment on how accurate the film portrays people that are addicted to speed, heroin, stuff like that. Go through those kinds of issues.
Yeah, is it? Was that Aronofsky who directed it?
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Aronofsky. It's a completely different film than watching like The Wrestler. I feel like I could watch The Wrestler a couple times.
Well, the interesting thing about Aronofsky is every one of his films is completely different. The guy has never, like, as much as I love Christopher Nolan, there's similar themes throughout most of Christopher Nolan's films. Where Aronofsky, almost every single film he's made is very different, from his previous one.
So yeah, very, very odd film. If you want to watch it, you can watch it.
Okay, but, Ellen Burstyn was nominated. She didn't win, but she was nominated.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's tough.
She's good in that film.
Yeah. It's a tough
well
movie
acted.
to watch.
Yeah, well acted, but tough movie to watch. A couple other things. We had before the show we talked about it about a time.
You could have watched it on Tubi for free.
Ah, man, Tubi. I always forget about Tubi. But before the show we were talking about how well kids have it and how much time they have, and there's a re-release of GoldenEye 007, baby, and I downloaded it and I played me some GoldenEye yesterday. Talk about throwing back to a time when we had all the time in the world and didn't even know it. And that was a game that I grew up with, as a kid. And, you just have a bunch of friends over, N64, you'd have 4 controllers, you're watching everyone's screen. And, God forbid someone, don't look at my screen, man. I know you're looking to see where I'm at. And, so it was fun. It just reminded me about that. And I was showing Jake, I said, dude, this was like Call of Duty before Call of Duty, baby.
And Jake's like, it's not that cool, Dad.
He's like, oh, all those guys, they look, he's like, is that 16-bit? And I was like, no, it's 64-bit. It's like, that's 16-bit.
See, man, kids don't know what's up, man. They're just like,
yeah. But it was fun. It was fun playing. I played on the easy mode just so I could run through it real quick on a couple missions and tested it out. I had fun. And then I tested out a game that's been out for a while. It came out like a decade or so ago. It's called Warframe. And Long and Frank both told me that I should check it out. And I checked it out.
I've played it before. I thought it was okay.
Yeah, it's okay. I got through the first part, and then my kids wanted to use the TV, so I relinquished control. But very similar to Destiny. 3 different classes. You've got like a super power up, and it's got a cool little story behind it. Do I think I'll play it long term? I don't know. I kind of like playing the Star Wars Battlefront still. They need to come up with a Battlefront 3, but maybe they're waiting for another phase of Star Wars to release new characters and missions and stuff. We'll see. But I like playing the heroes, the heroes battle where you just pick different heroes. And I'm a friggin' surgeon with Iden Versio. I'm just, I take out Jedis with her. I can take out Anakin. I can take out anybody with her as long as I have the right approach. The only thing about choosing blasters in the heroes arena is, if they run up on you, if a Jedi runs up on you, you're kind of screwed because you got to start attacking from a distance, work your way in, and then you've taken them out. But yeah, I'm still rolling with that for the most part. Other than that, that's really it for me.
All right. Well, I was talking earlier about video game adaptions and things like that with the success of The Last of Us. And we'll start the news off with the first bit is Last of Us has been renewed for season 2 after its 2 episodes, which is no surprise there. So you can invest in it, people. There will be more than one season, which is sometimes a risk you take with streaming shows nowadays. But But apparently, Phoebe Walter Bridge, who's of course in the new Indiana Jones film Dial of Destiny, she is also known to be a writer, and she's going to help write a Tomb Raider series for Amazon. And apparently, it's going to be. They plan on this being tied directly into the games, even with the continuity of the games. So it's going to be almost like an interactive thing where it's, which I don't quite understand what they meant by that. Isn't every adaptation tied in with the source material? But I guess they're trying to be. But it's going to be for Amazon. We've had the Angelina Jolie Tomb Raider movies, and we had the one from a few years ago, which I actually kind of liked the one from a few years ago. I can't remember the actress that played it. I was hoping she would get a second shot at it, but so Amazon, of course, needs their next big video game hit. They, of course, have a God of War show in the works in Amazon and Tomb Raider, and they're basically saying, "Hold up, HBO, we're going to make a good video game adaptation too." We'll see. We'll see if that happens or not. I don't know. Tomb Raider is one of those things that, I feel like Tomb Raider works as a video game, but as a movie, TV show, it's like the biggest problem with anything that deals with, I found with treasure hunters is since Indiana Jones came out, everything is going to be compared to Indiana Jones. And there's never been a hugely successful treasure hunt show or movie since Indiana Jones. There's been some that are moderately successful. But it just seems like he has the market on that genre with just his lone character.
Everything else is a variation.
Exactly.
Like as much as I like The Mummy, look, they peeked over, they looked at Indiana Jones, and they said, "Hey, what if Indiana Jones just carried a couple extra revolvers and fought a mummy?" Yeah. Yeah.
Even as much as I love the Uncharted games, they're still a variation of Indiana Jones. Uncharted doesn't exist without an Indiana Jones, and Tomb Raider doesn't exist without it. So we'll see. Good luck to Amazon with that. Yeah. Sticking with HBO Max, we kind of knew this was coming. Doom Patrol and Titans are going to be their latest seasons 4 are going to be it. Both showrunners though are promising that they will end the shows with a complete storyline. I never watched Doom Patrol. Well, I'll take that back. I watched the first episode. Titans, I watched about a season and a half, but the second season just wasn't very good, so I never continued it. But these shows have been on thin ice ever since leaving the DC Universe app when they moved to HBO. We knew that HBO was never fully behind them, and they gave them a little more time for the shows to begin with. So they're ending, and maybe it's for the best.
Yeah. Sometimes, you get a new company that takes over and, they make way with the old stuff to bring in, their own agenda, their own wants. And that's what's happening here.
Yep. Did you see that, man, Justin Roiland, one of the co-creators of Rick and Morty, is in some legal trouble, domestic abuse allegations. So the Adult Swim and the Cartoon Network have parted ways with him. But they're promising Rick and Morty will go on. Season 7 is still going to happen. And this guy did the voice of Rick and Morty. But they're going to recast. Shit. They're going to do I guess, casting calls to see who does the best Rick and Morty voices, and they're going to recast the roles and move on to finish the show.
That's how they should do it.
Yeah, so that's good for Rick and Morty fans. That turns out that the guy is a creep, and we'll see what happens.
Man, it's always, you just never know who the creeps are. Elmo, Barney, they just can't stick to their own. They just can't stay in their lane. They've got to do weird shit, and I guess, we won't be seeing him anymore for a while.
All right. And Mario Brother fans, February 26th is your big day for toys. That is the day that toy stores are scheduled to get all the new toys from the Super Mario Brothers movie that's coming out in March or April. It's April, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, this is a big deal, man. Nintendo very rarely licenses out their characters. This is probably their biggest licensing thing ever, to have a motion picture made based on their characters through Illumination Entertainment. The movie looks great so far. The trailer is exciting. So if you're into Mario toys, February 26th for all you Mario fans.
All the Mario fans.
And lastly, man, the Oscar nominations were given out this week. And, I'm not I don't get too caught up in the awards. I sometimes might be, that was interesting, this one Best Picture or that didn't or whatever. Like I'm never going to forgive them for Saving Private Ryan not winning over Shakespeare in Love. But this year has some merit to it through the genre that we cover. The Batman was nominated for 3 awards for, Best Sound and Best Costumes and Makeup because of the amazing job they did with Colin Farrell, and Best Visual Effects. And Top Gun Maverick was nominated for Best Picture, and so was a movie that we all really liked in the show, is Everything Everywhere All at Once, led with 11 nominations, and it's great to see Michelle Yeoh get a nomination for Best Actress, and Ki Yu Quinn, did I say it right? Short Round from Indiana Jones getting nominated for Best Supporting Actor. So I'm excited for that movie getting all the nominations, and I'm hoping it wins a whole bunch of them and walks out of the Academy Awards with a bunch of awards because that movie deserves it. And I was looking back too. I realized that I don't know how you did not put that movie on your top 5 movies of the year, or it's like I don't know if I can forgive you for that, Matt.
Well, remember I'd seen Avatar 2, and you hadn't.
Yeah.
So I had Avatar 2, and then Dragon Ball Superhero. I had that in there.
Well, I had that in my top 10 of the year that I put on my Facebook page, but not on our show. Like Avatar was nominated as well. I didn't feel like when I was watching Avatar: Way of the Water, I never felt like it was a Best Picture type nominee. But I also think in a year where movies are still recovering from COVID and we're still not at full capacity releases, perhaps Avatar was able to sneak in there because of that. It's fair enough to say. But we'll see. I just hope Everything Everywhere All at Once is able to come out and win some awards. I would really like that because, man, it's such a good film. If you haven't seen it yet, it's on Showtime now and streaming on Showtime's app. Take the time to watch it, man. It's a movie that can restore your faith in films. I really do believe that about Everything Everywhere All at Once. It's a great, great movie. Very enjoyable, and it's going to deserve everything it wins at the Oscars, which I'm hoping is a whole lot. So, all right. Well, let's get into today's featured film. we were putting together our list for our first 6 to 8 weeks or so of the year of movies, and we ended up with this little mini trilogy of threequels here in the middle. We started last week with Mission Impossible 3, and now we're continuing this week with the weird and wacky Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome.
Yes.
The third entry in the Mad Max series, which is coming off the very successful Road Warrior film, which introduced Mad Max to a wider audience, because the first film, Mad Max, was more of an independent film. It did okay at the box office, but it wasn't not everyone knew about it. Then the Road Warrior came around, and more people were more familiar with Mad Max. So they said, let's make a sequel. Warner Brothers wanted a sequel to it, and let's bring in Tina Turner to give it some star power,
That's right.
And let's have that really hit music video, because it worked for Ghostbusters with Ray Parker. So, hey, let's go make our movie with a hit music video. That's kind of how I felt. And let's make it PG-13 so that more people can go see it, because they have this new rating out now called PG-13. They didn't have that when we made the Road Warrior, but we have it now. So let's make it a PG-13 Mad Max film.
Uh-huh.
And this movie basically, essentially, it finds Max, several years after the Road Warrior, and his car's been stolen from him.
15 years.
Is it 15 years?
15.
His car's been stolen. He's still wandering the wasteland. And he comes across Bartertown, which is apparently the most technologically advanced town in the wasteland.
Ran off of pig farts.
Yes, it runs off of pig farts and methane gas, which is controlled by a weird guy named Master Blaster, who apparently is the real leader of Bartertown, even though Tina Turner's character, Aunty, she claims she's the leader, but not knowing that she's kind of being somewhat controlled by Master Blaster. It's all really weird. And there's all these characters with like leather on and their asses hanging out. And I'm like, why is this PG-13? This is all fucked up and weird, And so Mel comes in there, and he gets himself in trouble, and he gets himself thrown into Thunderdome, where he has to fight Master Blaster. But it's part of Annie's plan, because she wants him to take out Master Blaster.
That's the
so
deal.
She can get full control. But it doesn't go that way. It goes where Mad Max gets himself in trouble, and they have to bar him from Bartertown, and then he runs into these kids that are in the middle of nowhere, and this is where it gets really weird. I'm not sure what the whole
they think that he's sky
like this
pilot
leader,
that's gonna fly them away into the town of tomorrow.
Right.
When he's like, no, it's
I'm just a guy.
guess George Miller meant them to be kind of like a Lord of the Flies tribe that had been there the whole time. And which makes sense when you put it that way.
Right.
But he kind of uses the kids to help take over Bartertown.
Right.
But then it doesn't really work. He takes Master so that, they can make their own town, and they're able to escape with him. But, lo and behold, he's left behind in the end. Very weird though.
He doesn't get his car back.
He doesn't. He doesn't get his car back.
This movie, the plot's all over the place. It doesn't make sense for most of it. It's like, wait, what's going on now? Where do these kids come from? Where's this character? Who's this character? Yeah. It feels like Max disappears for part of the movie. Like he's just he has
working,
very few lines in it. He's just sort of there. I think the best part about this movie is the last 15 minutes with the chase scene, because you start to see the George Miller that we had make Fury Road. Like, you can see the ideas he had for Fury Road. He tries to throw into the chasing at the end of Beyond Thunderdome, and they work pretty well for 1985. And I think that's the most impressive part, is that George really tried to push the envelope with that chase at the end of Thunderdome. And then, 20 years later, he pulled it off to a masterpiece in Fury Road. I think that's the best part.
My question for you, Mark, since you probably saw this way before I did, how disappointed were you when they said 2 men enter, and instead of cuddling and giggling and tickling each other, they're fighting?
I wasn't disappointed at all, Matt.
Oh, okay.
I expected fight. I'm more disappointed that the movie is watered down. There's no blood or guts in it. There's hardly any violence in it, really, compared to the other Mad Max films. That's more where my disappointment was. I wasn't missing out on cuddling. There's enough cuddleness going on with all the leather thongs in this movie. I'm like, My thing is like, this feels like a 70s reject film with all it's so bizarre and so weird.
How far is which film is better, Tank Girl or this film?
I'm going to give this film the edge on that. I still think
probably.
Just because it's still George Miller and it's Mel Gibson. It's still a better movie. But it's just.
But it almost isn't, man. It almost isn't better than Tank Girl.
I've only seen Tank Girl like once or twice, so I can't really.
Yeah, it's only worth once or twice watching.
I mean, hell, this is probably only maybe the fourth or fifth time I've seen Thunderdome. I haven't watched it a whole lot because it's not my favorite Mad Max film. You know what, though? It's strangely, I think, more watchable than the first Mad Max, because the first Mad Max is good. Yeah. The first Mad Max is good, but it's an independent film. Watch it once, it's enough. There is more going on in this one. I feel like Tina Turner's really bad in this movie. Like, I just feel like she's reading a teleprompter the entire time. She pretty much delivers every line in the film the exact same way, the exact same emotion. She can't act. She's a singer. She doesn't belong in a film. She shouldn't be acting. That's just my opinion. And she's just not real good in it. Then there's all kinds of one thing the Mad Max series always has done well, even in Fury Road, the new ones, is just really bizarre characters. And this movie is not short on bizarre characters.
Definitely
from the beginning of the film to the end, it's just filled with weird after weird character. And I think that's where visually the movie works, is like there's so much going on, so much to see. You're like, what am I going to see next in this movie? And it's bizarre. I don't know how many times I can say that it's bizarre, because it is bizarre. It's bizarre, bizarre, bizarre. And, I feel like you could probably appreciate this movie a lot more if you're drunk or stoned, maybe.
If you're drunk or stoned,
maybe it makes more sense.
Yeah. I mean, I get it, but it's like you've got Bartertown, you've got Master and Blaster, you've got Aunty, the autocrat that wants to gain control, and the only way is to take out Blaster, who's not really a menacing giant.
No, he's like
bodybuilder.
A kid.
And he's like a kid, and that's why Mel gets in trouble. He's like, hey, this is a fucking kid, man. Just like whenever they find out Spider-Man is not a man, but he's a boy, but is actually a man because he's Tobey Maguire and he's older. But it's he gets himself in trouble, and then he's like, let's find out how to turn pig farts into our own.
Yeah, I was like, what? What does Mel Gibson's character say? It's either way you look at it, it's still shit.
It's yep. Either can you shovel shit?
And then they steal a line from Buckaroo Banzai in this. One of the guys goes, if he says, no matter where you go, there you are. I'm like, what? You stole that line from the movie that came out a year before this.
Yep. Yeah, that's right. I was watching it and I was like, oh, cool, Buckaroo Banzai. And the wife's like, what's that? And I was like, we're watching it now. We're turning this off. We're watching, and she wouldn't watch Buckaroo Banzai for 20 minutes with me.
Some people just can't be helped.
They can't.
Also, you were saying like this. Originally, this film was a Lord of the Flies style film. Not only that, and George Miller came in and said, well, why would we make Max the guy who found the kids? That's what makes me think this is almost like two plots that they put into one film and made into a Mad Max film. Yeah. It also bugs me that he doesn't have his car in this movie. He never finds it. Did Aunty have his car? Did they allude to that, or are you just looking for his car?
No, they had it. He got it taken from him, and then he drives it in there. Remember, because
that's right.
He's like, "Well, I'm looking for my car," and then he's like, do you have any skills? And that's when he shoots the guy's feather off, and then when he's working, they're trying to disarm the car, and Master is like, oh, he's like disarm, and Mel's like, it's gonna blow your ass up, you hippie. and so he's like, you better disarm, or Blaster's gonna, put, his fist up your ass. And he's like, all right, calm down. And he disarms it. I guess he just never gets it back. He just gives up his car. We don't ever see the car again. It's kind of disappointing. I'm a little upset about that.
Yeah, I think after the two car movies, when Mad Max 1 and The Road Warrior are so car heavy, this one feels really like low key compared to those two. And that's why I have a hard time feeling like this is a Mad Max film at times, is because the other 3 films in the 4 film series all have lots of vehicles. And this one's just kind of like the chase at the end. That's it. And, you know, and it's like, and then they're on like this weird train thing, like that these kids had that's coming out of this cave. It's like, where did this train thing come from?
I'm thinking they needed to find, they're like, what can we use that's similar to the tanker that was so successful in the previous film? They're like, oh, a big ass locomotive. That's what we're going to use. That's one of the cool. Let's not do the tanker thing again. Let's do the steam engine. But yeah, I feel like, it's not as cool as obviously the tanker scene from the Road Warrior. But I guess we get our chase scene, and it's a race to make sure the kids can take off, and Max helps the plane lose weight and jumps off of it so they can get away, and they just leave him there in the desert. I don't know why she just doesn't scissor his head with her legs like Onatop from 007. You know what I'm talking about? Xenia Onatop. Because Tina Turner doing that, I mean, that would look pretty damn good. Those legs were insured for $1 million, baby. Those are some legs, man. He might enjoy dying, but going that way, that's a different kind of post-apocalyptic torture that I'd be okay with. But just have Tina Turner. You're gonna die because Tina Turner's gonna cut off your circulation with her, gorgeous legs. All right. There are worse ways to go. Yeah. But yeah, they just leave him there, and it makes me wonder how Mad Max Fury Road's supposed to start, because it looks like he gets his vehicle back somehow, but wouldn't he have to go back to Bartertown? And we'll see. Maybe Bartertown doesn't exist after that. We need to find out what happens. Well,
see, I always thought Fury Road took place shortly after this, but because at the beginning of Fury Road, he has long hair and he cuts it. But then I forgot that he does get his hair cut in this movie. And George Miller has since came out and said that Fury Road is not really directly a sequel. It's just another chapter in the Mad Max saga. It's just an episode that this happened at some point to Mad Max. So
yeah, like a James Bond.
Right. There's no real continuity to it because, the weird thing too is about this movie is it definitely feels like the first 2 films were independently financed by George Miller. Of course, Warner Brothers ended up distributing them in America. But now that Warner Brothers kind of took over the franchise, they offered the rights to the Mad Max films to George Miller if he had stepped aside from directing Contact. So he agreed to do this movie. And it feels like a studio film. It had studio financing behind it, which is why they brought in Tina Turner. They made it PG-13, toned it down so they could hopefully sell more tickets. And financially, it was fairly successful. It wasn't like unsuccessful or anything at the box office. Wasn't hugely successful, but it did all right because the franchise was.
It was $10 million. It made like $7.5 million of that the first weekend. Yeah. It slowed down after that, but still it made, $36 million. Yeah. So, if you look at, the relative expenses to it, it made over 3 times its budget. It's not too bad.
No, not too bad. And it, and it had the star power of Mel Gibson, and of course Tina Turner was a huge star at this time. It just doesn't come together the way the movie should have. And I think the Road Warrior is so classic and so good that following that up was going to be tough. And George Miller, this was a character that was really important to him. He considered developing a Mad Max television series at one point. We're taking Mad Max to television. But then that's when Warner Bros. Was like really kind of like, well, maybe let's do one more film at least. So he decided to do the sequel instead of taking to television. And he planned on retiring the character after this movie to the point where they almost considered killing Mad Max off in this movie. And that's why the ending was kind of left like that. They're like, well, we decided to leave him alive. Now, they never filmed any where they killed him, but they considered it. And, of course, then the character was put to rest until, 20, 30 years later when we got Mad Max Fury Road. And now we're going to get a Furiosa movie. And apparently Miller has a script called Mad Max The Wasteland that he's considering making too, with one more Mad Max film. So we'll see how much more we get from this series. Had a really good video game from a couple of years ago based on this franchise. So, excuse me. But I think overall this franchise has been very successful over the years. It's been a good science fiction. Maybe not one of my favorite science fiction franchises, but it's been good.
Yeah.
And it's been a fun watch. And we talked after show last week about ranking these films, but I pretty much have a feeling that we'd both rank them the same way. Because I think at number 4, I mean, I almost could flip flop them, but I think I have to put Thunderdome at 4, just because I think it's just the plot's so messy, and it's just like two movies into one, and there's just not enough cars in it for me.
Same.
That I think it's at 4. So you kind of agree with that?
I agree with that.
Then I think at 3 is the original Mad Max, which I can appreciate it for being an independent film, shooting in guerrilla styles. There's some good car stuff in it.
Yeah. The last of the V8s.
There's
the Knight Rider.
Yeah. There's some cool stuff in it. Introduce the world to Mel Gibson, this character, and it introduces franchise. And I think at number 2 is The Road Warrior. It's a remarkable film for when it was made, and it still holds up really well.
The chase scene is
the chase scene is good. It's exciting. Yeah. It's well acted. It fleshes out the world of Mad Max a lot. And then I think easily at number 1, it's the masterpiece that was Mad Max Fury Road. I mean, still one of my greatest action films of all time. Just one of the best films I've seen in the last 10 to 15 years. Exhilarating, exciting, just an incredible film.
Yep. And the only film with a literal titty bar. Yep. Making milk for Immortan Joe.
Yeah. Hey, did you notice too? Did you notice too that the at the end of Thunderdome, the chase scene? Did you notice the drum beat score, which was used in Fury Road also? So I can't help but I don't know who scored Fury Road. I'd have to look it up, but I wonder if they went back and watched the original Mad Max films, because there's definitely some similar themes in the musical score in Fury Road.
No, probably
compared to Thunderdome.
Maybe I didn't notice it.
Yeah, I noticed that, the chase scene at the end. But Mad Max Thunderdome, the Mad Max films, I believe, are all on HBO Max if you want to watch them. It's a cool film to watch. Not great, but if you want to watch something really weird and bizarre and just kind of out there, Mad Max Fury Road. I mean, Mad
Which
Max
is what the
Thunderdome.
80s are, baby. That's what the 80s are, man. They're full of weird and stuff that just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Some of it worked. Some of it we're still scratching our heads over, like this one. But, you're going to be entertained, and that's a guarantee. Yeah,
that's an entertaining movie. And then, well, let's preview our follow-up to Mad Max Thunderdome, Beyond Thunderdome, with our third of our threequel movies that we...
The threequels that made us.
And and this one is a movie that... it's one of those sequels that I don't... it's been a while since I watched it, so maybe I'll think differently after I see it, but I never understood the hatred this movie kind of got. And I guess it makes sense coming after the masterpieces Terminator 2 Judgment Day, that this movie was always set up to be, I won't say a letdown, but it had a lot to live up to. I think that's fair to say. And that is Terminator 3 Rise of the Machines.
The life you know, all the stuff you take for granted, it's not gonna last. Imagine a world of permanent darkness, where machines control man's destiny. Imagine you were the only one who could stop it. But before you do, something terrible has to happen.
All This can't be happening.
John Connor was here. Where is he?
Are you going to kill me?
No. My mission is to protect you.
Oh, God. She's coming. TX, can you find a way to destroy her?
Unlikely. I'm an obsolete design.
TX has corrupted my system.
The machines, they're starting to take over. Judgment Day. The end of the world. It's today, 3 hours from now.
Get away from me. Now!
What is your mission?
To ensure the survival of John Connor.
You are about to fail that mission. You don't have to do this. You don't want to do this.
Desire is irrelevant. I am a machine.
Yeah, I remember when I saw this the couple times I've seen it. I don't remember like disliking it. You know, it's okay for what it was. Like I said, they had a lot of hype to live up to, and next week we'll look back at Terminator 3. It's been a long time since I've watched this one. I've probably seen Salvation a few more times than I've even seen Terminator 3. So I'm kind of looking forward to rewatching it and revisit. It's been a long. We covered Terminator 1 and 2 as a double feature way back early when we first rebooted the show. So it's been a while since we've talked a Terminator film. And so we'll look back at Terminator 3 next week on the show. And it should be fun. I'm kind of looking forward to rewatching it and seeing where it stands now in this franchise. Another franchise that has been kind of a bit maligned over the years, you know, as far as the different films that have come out. So, you know, we'll talk
What's cool,
about it.
and this is the last film before this was the last pre-Governor film that Arnold made.
Yeah.
So he made this film, and then he became the Governator.
That's right, baby.
That's right.
So we'll talk Terminator 3 Rise of the Machines next week on the show. But until then, the rebelradiopodcast.com for all your Rebel Radio needs. I fixed some links on the website. We are on Amazon Music. We've been on Amazon Music, but I never had the right link up. We are now on Podchaser, which is another app. I think you can listen to podcasts, and of course Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, all those good things to listen to your favorite podcast. So if you give us a listen to those, we appreciate it. Listen to us on Apple Podcasts. Leave us a 5-star review, because that would be really swell of you, and make us tingly, I guess. So, but until next week, just continue to be safe out there, and thank you as always for listening. This has been Mark.
This has been Matt.
Remember, as always, just go there.
And do it.
This is Walter Simonson. You're listening to the Rebel Radio Podcast.
This is James O'Barr on Rebel Radio. Thanks for listening.